Rick Venturi is Gruden's right-hand man on all that stuff, and we always love when he comes on.
I have to apologize.
Us, I believe.
As we have Rick, I have to apologize. I was in the middle of doing two things, and I did call him Ken Venturi when I was connecting with him. So when we screw up, we like to make fun of ourselves, so let me make fun of myself for that one.
How are you, Coach?
Hey, man, Ken is my alias if he didn't know that, but full disclosure here, during championship week, I'm only doing outside of my day job to guys I really like and guys that are good. And, Zach, you are a dear friend, and you are the best in the business. So happy to be
you're
with
lying.
I thought he was going to end that at Zach. I thought he was going to say guys I really like and guys that are really good and Zach. I thought that's where he was going to end.
And then that other guy.
We had 2 great years together, and they were 2 of the fun years of my life.
Well, I appreciate it. A lot of people around here follow the Cowboys, are big diehard Cowboys fans, and the Colts got blown out by the Cowboys less than a month ago. What is the chief reason that they are where they are now?
Well, it's really been interesting. You know, sometimes necessity is the mother of invention, and they've had to patch things up. You know, they've had all kinds of problems in the offensive line. You know, they've struggled at certain defensive areas. But they just keep plugging here. They just keep fixing. And ironically, they just played the 2 best games of the year. You know, talk about getting hot late. But their 2 best games of the year has happened in 8 days. You know, they've played better defense against the run. Now, they'll be tested by the Patriots. That's been their Achilles heel against the Patriots. And then Andrew Luck, all of a sudden, they've gone kind of chuck and check offense where he either takes the deep shot or he checks it down. And so he's not forcing the ball, so his great athleticism has kind of come to the front. But, you know, I thought that the win over Cincinnati was kind of expected, but the win over Denver at Denver was really a validation, kind of a getting the demon off their back. They hadn't played well against good teams. And now, of course, the biggest demon for this regime is to get the Patriots in New England. So, you know, that's the big one.
Yeah. What's the fairest criticism of Andrew Luck?
Well, I would say that the only criticism that you really have, because I don't think anyone in football has gotten more with less. And I'm not going to knock the rest of this team, you know, but other than Hilton, he's really the only money guy. He's had offensive line struggles for 3 years. And the kid has been magnificent. I mean, there's no quarterback that I like better, and I've seen a lot of them, even at a young age. I would say the big thing that he's done better, you know, let me put it that way, that he didn't do so well during the season, was during the season he tended to try to make every play, Zach, and he extended plays sometimes when they weren't there, or forced it when they weren't there, and you're kind of, you know, it's kind of a tough deal there because you know he has to win the game, and yet there's times you want to say don't lose it. And if he's done anything in the last 2 weeks better than all his 3 years combined, it has been that Chuck, either take the shot deep or check, take it underneath, move when you have to, but don't try to make a big play off your heels, you know, and give up a fumble. I would say the biggest weakness, if you'd have to say a weakness numerically and practically, has been, you know, the turning it over at times.
Rick Venturi, 27-year NFL coaching veteran, joins us on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline to break down the 2 conference championship games. So give me a quick game plan here, at least offensively, on how to beat the Patriots.
Well, you know, the Patriots are game specific, and what they do, and you know, you've heard me talk about Belichick. I worked for him for 2 years. He's going to come here and he's going to take away certain things. He's done it 2 years in a row. Primarily, he's going to take away Hilton. I think since Boom Herron has come on the scene, I think he's become the number 2 threat. And then he's going to have a rush plan for Andrew Luck. You almost know that those 3 things are going to be there. And in order to be successful against Belichick, I think you have to keep him off balance early. You've got to do things out of the box. You've got to keep him adjusting and not adapting. And then you have to have a collective effort. In other words, if in fact he does, which he probably will do, take away your top, maybe your 1-2 guy, then you have to be able to win with Fleener, Moncrief, Nix, Allen. You've got to be able to win with the rest of your team. you hear it all the time, he makes you play left-handed, meaning he's going to take away your leading ladies with design. So you have to be able to win with the other guys, and they weren't in the first game, and I think they're better at that. I think Moncrief and Boom Heron, two young kids, have really given them explosiveness they didn't have a few weeks ago.
It's so weird to think of Tom Brady as an old guy. As he's 37 now, how would you assess how he's aged as a quarterback?
Well, as opposed to Manning, I think he's playing as well as he's ever played. I mean, he's in control of the game. I thought the last drive against Baltimore was just vintage Brady, just in command of the offense. You just see it. You just feel it, and I've been that coordinator on the field. I don't think he's lost anything with his arm. Now, let me say this to you. If you stop the run, which they're not a great run team statistically, but they have been against the Colts, so that's been specific. I do think they have offensive line weaknesses. Now, Tom can avoid the rush, but he can't run anywhere. So, if you can get a run stop and get a clamp on Gronkowski, then they are vulnerable up front, and that's the one thing. But that has nothing to do with age. It's just that, he isn't a runner. He's not a mover like a Luck or a Russell Wilson.
Rick Venturi, our NFL coach, he joins us on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready hotline. Let me move over to the NFC. How would you beat Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I think you have a little bit of an advantage this time in that you're not getting Aaron Rodgers whole. Now, this is a great matchup. Mike McCarthy, another one of my good friends who I worked with, is one of the great offensive minds in the game against Pete Carroll, one of the great defensive minds in the game. This is high strategy, high science from the Packers, against keep it simple, get athletes, and get after you at Seattle. I think the biggest thing is that the one dimension that he doesn't have right now is legs. So I think you can really sell out on the pass rush. He's not going to get away. You used to have to kind of condense him and keep him in the pocket. That's a big advantage. I think, number one, they're trying to make up for that with running the ball to Lacy. So the one thing you don't want to do against Mike, he's going to spread you, run you with Lacy, take some shots to 87, Jordy Nelson, and then he's going to move Cobb everywhere to try to get a matchup. So I think you kind of stop him in that order. You don't let Lacy get going. If you don't let him get going, you got to throw all day. At one time that might have not have been an advantage versus Rodgers, but in that stadium with all that noise, getting that defense cranked up, and him not being able to move, that'll help you. Then just don't let Jordy get a big play. He's going to catch some balls. And then I think you're going to have to direct coverage to Cobb. Cobb is the best-kept secret in the National Football League, whether he's coming out of the backfield in the slot or wherever. Look for Mike to really, really open them up because, Seattle plays relatively simple, a lot of single high, 3 deep, a lot of 3 deep zone. Look for him to try to spread those seams. Green Bay does have a little bit better offensive line than they have in a while. They're doing a pretty good job, but I still think Seattle with those edge rushers can cause havoc.
Rick, you mentioned that Tom Brady's not a scramble guy to get away from pressure. Aaron Rodgers is, but he's got that torn calf muscle. How much of a red flag does that throw up for you for those like me that want the Packers to win on Sunday?
Well, I think it's a big red flag because you're going to Seattle. It's a tough matchup. You're playing against a great team. You're playing against a terrific defense that can impound you. The greatest, I think, the best running back in the National League by far, and then the most unique quarterback. I'm not going to say he's the best quarterback, but he's the most unique quarterback. He extends the game widthwise with his legs. Where we normally consider 8 gaps, with Russell Wilson, you're playing 10 gaps. And so it's in the 12th man, I've been in there and I coached. It's just a very difficult deal. Now, a healthy Rodgers who can make those great athletic plays, you got a shot. I think it's tough, without him being able to move. I just think that, Seattle can turn that front loose and get going. But, it'll be a game. That guy finds a way to win. Great players like Rodgers. I thought his performance last week under the circumstances was absolutely terrific.
Defensively, if you're Green Bay, how do you beat Seattle's offense?
Yeah, good point. That's the toughest thing. I think that I think you got to go into it basically, Zach, this way. I think you got to say your corners can press and handle the outside almost by themselves. And so you have to kind of create almost an 8 to 9 man box inside, because you have to take away the direct runs. I like Buddy Ryan's old 46 against them, because while you're doing that, you also have to have guys on the wide edges. If anything, I want to keep Russell in the pocket. If I can stop the run and keep him from the edge, then if possible, and this is very seldom that you see it done because those two guys are so good, and Russell will get outside and he'll make a humongously great play. He's devastating on the move. But if you could stop those two elements, force him to be in the pocket, let's say throw 30-plus times a game, I'm not sure that he's quite as good as a Rodgers, Brady, or Luck in that scenario. Now, getting that done, obviously is easier said than done. Again, you have to load the box and stop the run, and you have to have edge pressure on. So basically, you're going to put your corners in a lot of man-to-man and say, boys, you're not going to have much help.
Boy, I've got like a million questions for you, but I got to let you
fire,
go.
Man. We got all day. I'm so crazy.
You do.
45 minutes. I just did 45 minutes here on this playoff game, and I think I got them all fired up.
Well, do you want to hold to? How about you hold to? I got 2 more questions for you. If you want to hold to the
buddy.
break,
Sure,
can you do that?
Sure.
All right. 5 more minutes with Rick Venturi. Give me the time, Coach, because I'm always interested when we're down to the Final Four. I mean, we're talking about the high-priced teams here, the ones that are you're vying for a Super Bowl, for crying out loud, this weekend, a Super Bowl appearance. And so I'm just curious, give me the time when Rick Venturi was most nervous going into a game, because I've got to imagine the feelings are very tense, and I'm guessing that the coaches in these games this weekend are feeling much the same. Give me the Rick Venturi most nervous moment.
I would say probably in the divisional round when I was in New Orleans in, I guess it would have been 2000, and we won the first playoff game in New Orleans history against the greatest show on turf, the Rams.
The Rams, yeah.
In 2000, we won it in that last second when Hakeem dropped the ball. But it's lost context now because of the success that the Saints have had. But that was the first win in franchise history. And the next week we went to play an equally explosive offense, and coach and defense like I was against the Mosses and Carters and the Minnesota Vikings. Probably that second, was probably the tensest just because of the stage. Although the type A I don't know. Every practice I was ready to go, but I would have to say it's probably that moment, and it didn't go well for us. But in speaking about the moment, I really believe that the coaches who are confident, who have their team ready to play freewheel, are the teams the only motivational differences in games like this are the teams that tend to tighten up. So, this is a great series. I think this is the 4 best franchises today in football in the Final Four. I think it's the league's 4 best quarterbacks, and I know people will blow back on this because they don't know Chuck Pagano. I think it's the 4 best coaches in the league. So, your Final Four, being a horse race guy like you are, this is 4 good horses in this one.
Well, how much do we undersell because the first thing we think of, or the first coach we think of in terms of keeping players loose in big moments like this, at least in current coaches, is Pete Carroll.
Right, I think that's right.
And is it underplayed how big of an asset that is for a coach to have?
I think it is. I think it is underplayed. I think the advantage that the Patriots have, and I don't know that it's necessarily approach, but I just think they've been on the big stage so many times with the head coach and the quarterback that they get it. I don't think it could ever be too big for them. It's not that they're going to be loose. It's just that they've been there. But I think it's a huge. I think the way Pete coaches, he finds that delicate balance. His personality is gregarious, but his team is well coached. I think Cam Chancellor and and Lynch are the two most vicious players in the National Football League. I mean, and I say that with respect and with honor. I don't say it negatively. I mean, but they'll play to win. They won't play not to lose. McCarthy's been in a lot of big games. Rodgers, I don't think much bothers him other than, how good the opponent really is. And so the Colts are kind of the outlier in that, they're trying to get there. They're taking steps. They took a huge step last week because they hadn't played well against a good team. They had beaten all the bad teams. I had said that to you during the year. And then this is their biggest demon, the New England Patriots, over a 3-year period. Pagano's beaten everybody from Seattle to Denver to San Francisco. I mean, he's beaten everybody, Green Bay, along his 3 years, but they have not played well against the Patriots. So this is the 500-pound gorilla to get to the dance.
Hey, last one for you, and I want to switch over to college real quick. I know you've had your eye on these NFL games, but anything you can give up. What do you think about Cardale Jones? A lot of people are interested in him. What do you make of him?
I really like him. I'll be honest with you. And I know it's a snapshot, but you know me, I've never had to wait 10 years to say a guy was good or not. I think Cardale Jones is a better pro prospect than he is Ohio State quarterback. And he just won a national championship. But I think that if they get the kind of the mobile type option guy that can throw a little bit, like Braxton Miller was, I don't think they'd hesitate to go back to him simply because of how college plays. College plays the quarterback as the 12th man running the ball. And I don't like the college game that way, but it is what it is, and that's the kind of guys that play real well. And most of them come without pocket awareness. I worry about Mariota because I see him a little bit like Kaepernick in that they put up huge numbers in offenses that are chaotic, that are perimeter, that receivers are absolutely wide open. I don't see the pinpoint second-level accuracy and reading of the defenses like you got to play on Sundays. Winston is actually more, I think, more suited for that. But he bothers me in that playoff game because he just looks so indecisive in reading defenses. But he comes out of the pro attack. I'm telling you, on the day they played, the best-looking pro to me was Cardale Jones.
Mariota or Winston?
That's a tough one. Those spread quarterbacks just drive me crazy. I just have some trouble with that chaotic offense.
I like this guy.
Before I'd make that decision, you know me, I'd have to look at a million films and I'd have to talk to both of them.
I know.
And I'm not so worried about that off-field stuff. I ain't going to make my decision on some off-field stuff. I'm going to make it on how you play. I would probably lean towards Winston, but I just got to make sure that he can read it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I hear you. Always a pleasure talking to you, buddy. Say hello to your wife for me and your grandkids and
you
the whole nine.
You do the same, buddy. You do the same. I'll miss you guys.
Right,
Talk
man.
to you later.
Yep.